Hello everyone, I'm Adam Papagan. Welcome to another episode of There's a Place, the ASMR talk show. The quiet talk show that feels good to hear. Before we jump into our episode tonight, I want to, much like our sister program on After This, Truth Noir, we like to talk about, uncover some cover-ups that are going on in the media, and just if there's ever anything that seems like the media isn't covering fairly, we try to give that fair scoop. So something you've been hearing a lot about it, I'm sure. The upfronts are this week in New York, so there's a big focus on diversity in Hollywood. There's not enough diversity, and I think this is just propaganda from the media, who doesn't want to admit that the real lack of diversity is in the content of the shows. They're all the same. There's more shows than ever. There's networks and cable and streaming services, and all these shows, it's just the same show. And instead of letting new people have a voice and get in, it's just like any person who's ever had a show in the past, like, hey, come do the same thing. And even, they'll do with the casting, they'll put some, they'll put minority actors in, but it's still the same. It's the same shows. Like, there's a show called Blackish about African American family. They did an episode about the N-word. There's another show, Carmichael show, also African American lead. They did a show about the N-word too. So it's like it's the same. They're not covering any new ground in the media because the powers that be, they don't want to shake things up. They don't want to open up your minds, open up all of our minds to different types of storytelling, different types of humor, types of jokes. It's just the same. It's the same old crap. So I think if we really want to have diversity, let's get some shows that don't stink. Huh? Let's just get some different kinds of shows. Open up some minds. My guest tonight is a mysterious young lady. She's a musician. She's known only by the initials MRK. I mean, I'm sure she has a lot to offer us, that whole life before the mystery, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Please welcome my guest tonight, MRK. Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing great. So I appreciate you getting dressed up for the show. Normally if we tape kind of late, so people sometimes just kind of come in with the outfit they've been wearing that day. I'm just in jeans here and I have shoes on. Mm-hmm. But you've got the whole cloak thing. How often do you get an opportunity to wear a cloak like this?
I mean, this has become my loungewear in a lot of ways, partially out of necessity and partially out of just the desire to wear a creepy-ass cloak.
It does seem comfortable, though.
It is very comfortable. But thank you for acknowledging my outfit. Sometimes I just want to dress like this throughout the whole day, and usually that's okay, but not at work. Mm-hmm. Not at my day job.
Not at the airport.
Right.
Make it a little difficult, maybe.
It could get strange, but that's okay.
Where do you get a cloak like this?
This I actually got from my residency that I did. It's from another band called Native Fauna, and I participated in their performance ritual that they did for my residency back in January. And we were all pallbearers and ghostly choir. And they were kind enough to buy us cloaks. And so that is the story of this particular cloak.
Do you have others?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is it always usually like a solid color thing?
It is usually solid color because a lot of times I make my own costumes, and when I do that, I'm just drawn to just massive blocks of solid color fabric. I can't ever walk away from it. And since I've been doing a lot of soft sculptures this year with fabric, I just have all of that stuff on hand anyway.
You can just make your own.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think about like a tie-dye cloak or something? It's just like a fun...
That would be fantastic.
Maybe like you could adapt a Snuggie.
Mm-hmm.
They make, you remember Snuggies? They have them in like camouflage color and stuff. So I don't know, maybe a different material.
Yeah.
I think you're up to it, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you. Well, what I would really love is to marble my own fabric. I've been working on that a little bit.
What is that?
Marbling is a process that they used to use to make book covers. I believe it's from 1800s, and it's a practice where you run a bunch of paint over a piece of paper or a piece of cloth, and then you draw lines in it that it's difficult to describe, but if you saw it, you would know what I was talking about. It looks like marble, it looks like Easter eggs out of some cosmic fantasy.
Speaking of cosmic fantasies, I watched, doing your research for this interview, I watched your music video for River of Blood.
Mm-hmm.
That was terrifying. We can't, a lot of people only listen to the show, so we'll have to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, it was like a horror film. It was really scary. Mm-hmm. You were, for some reason, the part that sticks out in my mind the most vividly, so you had like a watermelon, you pulled an egg out of it. That was something about that was really unsettling. Well, tell me about this video and why it was so scary.
Well, part of the reason that it comes off as being so scary, I think, is that it is loosely based on a horror film. It's actually one of the first films that's described as being a horror comedy fantasy is the 1977 film Hausu. It's a Japanese film.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, there was so much wonderful imagery in that film of watermelons, for example, were featured in it. Flowers were featured in it. Cats and the cat painting. The whole story sort of revolves around this sacred, innocent, corrupted idea of femininity in a lot of ways. And that's really what the song River of Blood was about for me when I wrote it. It's about how women and female destiny is interwoven with blood. And so it just seemed like a perfect fit to do it, to incorporate elements from a horror film. And when the directors from Mad as Hell, Mike Leese and Layla Charman, my dearly beloved visual collaborators, we had both just seen the film around the same time. And it was just an instant moment of, we have to make this into a music video. We have to base some visual piece off of this. And River of Blood was a perfect fit for that.
And at the end, you actually were covered in a river. Maybe a stream. I don't know how much blood you had on hand on the set.
It was a lot, but I think it looks like a lot more on film than it actually was.
Was that kind of fun to get covered in blood?
Oh, that was my favorite part. The ending with me, rolling around naked in the blood was not on the shot list. But because I was drenched already in that white cloak and I had to disrobe anyway to go outside and hose myself down, once I got that fabric off, I just thought, let's just shoot this. We have to shoot this. Because it was such a happy place for me. I love pushing my own limits in any way that I can, especially if it's like you're freezing, you're naked, you're covered in incredibly sticky substance. There's no reason that you should feel joy from that, but I did. I felt a lot of joy from it.
So it wasn't real blood?
Well, wasn't it?
I mean, was it pumped through a heart? Like, did it come, was it like,
We created a mechanism to pump it through.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was, you got just about as close as you could to the real thing.
To the real pumping action. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. But you didn't like go to a butcher shop. Yeah. Would you do that?
I mean, I'm very, very inspired by blood in general. As a woman, especially, I'm not shy of it. I know that there's plenty of women who do menstruate and they see blood on a monthly basis and it still freaks them out. But I personally, I find it very fascinating that we're sort of driven by this small ocean that lives inside of us and is constantly pumping through us and helping to pump things like nutrients and hormones and ideas through us, and electricity. It acts like a current for all of the electrical stuff that's going on in our body. So would I go to a butcher shop? I haven't yet.
But you would, that's how into blood.
I haven't sourced from a butcher shop, let's just say that much.
Okay, all right. What about, you seem like you wouldn't be grossed out by rolling around in blood. What about like a bunch of hair gel? Would you roll around in like a lot, like so much hair gel that it would like get in your mouth and stuff?
If it looked cool, I think that
Okay.
actually that I have wanted to do a piece before where I was rolling in like a clear substance like that. I think Vaseline might be a little better than hair gel just because hair gel has a lot of chemicals in it.
Okay.
But apart from that, I think, yeah, I would be interested. I wouldn't say no.
Okay. What about toilet water?
Well, toilet water is technically clean. Technically. I mean, if we're talking about used toilet water, that's
Okay,
maybe...
but the toilet is a toilet that doesn't get cleaned. It's like a
It's like a
bar.
gas station
Yeah,
toilet.
exactly. So the water itself is just water.
But the water comes from
From the
that
dirty toilet, yeah.
I would do it. I would shower afterwards.
Yeah. That's commitment to your art.
I mean,
It's refreshing.
if it had a purpose, you know, if it had a purpose and if it had a sort of commentary or meaning attached to it, then why not do anything in this life, you know?
I like that. I like that perspective. So let's kind of dial things back a little bit. And can I trace how you came to be so interested in blood and art and intersection of all these things? So you're from Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not, you know, maybe I'm ignorant. I don't think I've ever been to Arkansas. Not known as an epicenter for culture and avant-garde cinema and fabric marbling or anything like that. So what was your upbringing like in Arkansas?
It was just typical golden childhood stuff, you know, rolling down hills, being with my grandmother's horses, or my grandmother and my great aunt had horses together, and just a lot of open fields and sweet smells and humidity and mosquitoes, or skeeters, as we call them. And yeah, just really, just very kind of blissful like that.
And then where did you get corrupted by all the art? And I use that in like a positive way, take it in the spirits which it's intended. But yeah, were you like start listening to punk music and wearing all black to high school and stuff? Is that kind of where it turned over?
Yeah, I think that's where it turns for a lot of people. We had moved around a lot within Arkansas, so much so that the first, up until 7th grade, almost, I went to a different school every year. Sometimes it was going back to the same school, and sometimes it wasn't because we had moved, it was just because we had been redistricted. So there was already something corrupting in that sense of like, no one place is home, no one group of people is home, besides my family. And then I think, I don't know, there were just a lot of little moments. I was always curious about some darker aspects of life. I've always been curious about sex and sexuality, especially from the female perspective. And then getting into high school, I traveled for the first time ever. I went abroad to Malta and Sicily and Tunisia. I studied photography when I was 15 years old, and I lived in Milan briefly, and I did foreign exchange in France. And you know, I think just the more that I learned about the world in general, the more it opened me up to how I wanted to express myself in the world. And definitely, I mean, really hearing Patti Smith for the first time definitely changed a lot of things for me. I had been in choir my whole life, and then hearing, you know, Land of a Thousand Dances changed me in a lot of ways. And I gave the middle finger to choir lessons, and I started dressing up in costumes and performing a cappella songs and poetry at this little cafe in Washington that's around all of the Twin Peaks area. So yeah, that was really kind of a huge beginning for me.
When did you get to Washington?
Washington was 7th grade through high school graduation.
Okay, so you were traveling around a fair bit then.
Yeah.
Why were you traveling so much?
My dad's job, you know, he works with computers, and that was kind of the biggest thing. We were always following around wherever he was working for his tech jobs.
He was a Silicon cowboy.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely is.
Riding the range of the information superhighway.
Yeah, dude. He's got his front left tooth is silver, and he does wear cowboy boots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Arkansas, yeah.
Yeah.
And your mother, now it's that thing that Vice had when they showed the video, and then they had like the fun facts at the end. They didn't follow up on any of them, because they're just meant to be like fun little things.
Yeah, yeah.
But to hear, that's the beauty of a long format interview.
Yeah.
You can really get to the bottom of some things. You're not into yellow cheese.
Yeah. Yellow, like orange yellow cheese, because I think that I maybe OD'd on it as a kid. You know, those like American cheese single slices. I think I just had too many, and now I have this deep repulsion for I'm not really that much of a picky eater. I was for a long time, but then, you know, I grew up and got over it for the most part, but just I don't know what it is. If it's a very fancy orange yellow cheese, I can get down with that. Like I can get down with like a very, you know, spectacular cheddar or something that's presented nicely on a plank with jellies and nuts and stuff. But just like yellow cheese grated up on a taco, can't handle it. Cannot handle it.
What about pizza cheese? That's white, but it kind of turns.
I know, but
color when it's cooked.
My favorite pizza place, though, they just use straight up mozzarella, and like I think that there are a lot of places that do use like American cheeses as well in their pizzas, but Town Pizza in Highland Park, man, it's the best.
American cheese is like, they just color it. Like, cheese isn't naturally yellow.
Yeah.
It's always white.
Yeah.
But cartoons, like a mouse, it's a big piece of yellow cheese.
Yeah, yeah. I think I used to know how and why they made cheeses yellow. They started making cheeses yellow, but that knowledge has been swept away, I think.
But there's a reason for it that you used to know.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
I think it
Reach deep into your cavities of your...
I think that it was a Dutch practice initially, and I think that it had something to do with like maybe being able to hide other imperfections in the cheese, or it had to do with just some, ridiculous market value thing of like the brighter the cheese, the better the cheese. I don't know where they got into. I forget, but I think it was something kind of along those lines.
Okay, well, you're not falling for it.
I don't know. Not this cat. No way.
And you're not a picky eater anymore, but you used to be?
Yeah.
What you like when these people only eat chicken tenders? Or that's I know people like that. Grown people.
I do love chicken tenders, dude. Red Robin chicken tenders all the way. I love them so much. But
that's a food that picky eaters will get down with.
Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know why. I think it has a lot to do with the breading. At least in my case it does. Especially living in the southern Midwest. I loved thick, fried, kind of stuff. But I used to only eat the round macaroni, the wheel macaroni. I also used to only eat mushroom pizza, and this is when I was a small child. And the yellow cheese thing actually started out pretty early, where it turned on me once when my mom was finishing school and working a full-time job and had 2 babies. She took us to Taco Bell, and I already had a thing with the yellow cheese where it was like just 2 tacos, meat only, no cheese. And they put cheese on my tacos, and I started whining about it, and then just my fit just got bigger and bigger until my mom just kind of snapped at me a little, because how would you not? It's just like one of those things. They're like, child, you're being irrational.
You transitioned out of it. I'm leading to something here.
Oh, yeah.
But you transitioned out of being a picky eater as you got older and you got more into the art world?
Yeah, I think traveling did a lot for me. I know that when I first went abroad, I was initially pussyfooting through the cuisines, but it was really living in France with a host family that I stopped questioning, why should I eat this, or do I want to eat this, or, basing things on the way they looked or smelled or whatever it is that gives people some kind of red flags.
But the reason people are picky eaters, or will make a lot of go to a restaurant and they'll want something this way or no onions or like whatever like that, is it comes from, at some point, and everything comes from childhood, at some point, not having control over your life.
Exactly.
And this is a way you can exert control over something in your life, even if it's small. And in the restaurant context, control over other people.
Yeah.
Because then the waitress has to, like, let me see if they can do that, just, like that.
Yeah.
Excuse to get angry. So, as you got more control over your destiny, your palate was able to open up.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was gaining control over my destiny, but at the same time it was the way in which I gained that control was just by opening myself to all the experiences and also asserting whatever teenaged authority I had at the time in refusing to participate in the normal system of, this is your high school, these are your friends, this is the bus you take every day. I actually don't even know how much of that was a refusal to participate in it and how much of it was just, I couldn't do it. You know, I do have some kind of blockage with normal things, very, very, very normal things. Like when I apply for jobs, my best friend from Mad as Hell, Layla Jarman, she watches me apply for jobs, and my brow just gets deeply furrowed, and I'm just hunched over the computer, and I'm applying for things like a line cook at a restaurant and like an assistant program director at the Natural History Museum. It's like, just get me in the room, man. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. It's a very Aaron Brockovich sort of vibe, which I actually just watched today and cried.
Yeah, it's a good film. Mm-hmm. Did you watch it for the first time?
No, it wasn't the first. It was the first time in a long time.
Oh, okay. Why'd you watch Brockovich? Why today?
Well, I was feeling a bit low, and my current day job that I have is I work for an 82-year-old feminist activist who was a lawyer.
That's probably a delight.
Yeah, she is my muse, man. She's my guru. She's absolutely incredible. You know, she sasses the shit out of me, but you know, I love it. She teaches me so much every day working with her. It's like being struck by lightning and learning new things about the world and myself. And Aaron Brockovich is a pretty great feminist film overall. Mm-hmm. And I had, for a while, I think, you know, you see that film initially when you're younger and you know that, and then you get a little bit of education on things like feminist theory, or especially like feminist theory in film, or just, you know, the whole process that and the lens that women are viewed through in storytelling, in visual storytelling. And so I kind of watched it with a whole new brain and a whole new set of eyes of critical thought about, well, is this really like an empowering woman movie? And it totally is, 1000%. There are very few things there are very few films I feel like that you can genuinely say that about, even ones that are marketed as being such. And it was a very moving experience.
Which one here's on? You know, she got rid of the poison water.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that was the least of her victories in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
You to continue being a feminist.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't really it seems like the thing with feminism, it's hard to get new recruits. It seems like it's a lot of preaching to the choir, a lot of infighting about what the best way to be a feminist is.
Yes.
And then all the non-feminists. It's like it's the same with the gun control issue.
Yeah.
It's like nobody can get organized on anything. So the powers that be are saying, let's keep doing our thing.
Yeah. Well, my boss is a second waver. She comes from, not only the intense school and political movement that is second wave feminism, but she was also a pioneer of that. She and her group of women here in Los Angeles started the first pre-Roe v. Wade abortion clinic in Los Angeles.
So what is second wave feminism? First wave is like women's suffrage and stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is like the
second
bra
wave.
burning.
Yeah. Second wave is the, late 60s, early 70s. And, it kind of carried on a little bit into the 80s, but it largely revolved around equal pay, but even more so reproductive justice. And that was what my boss specialized in. And part of the reason that the infighting that exists today in feminism is largely due to the fact that there's a lot of criticisms of the way that the second wave operated in some senses. It was a predominantly, white, college-educated movement as far as the East Coast is concerned. My boss and the stories that she has told me in being based in Los Angeles, I think, was very, very different. And they, were incredibly passionate about every aspect of the feminist community. But at the same time, you can't force people to get involved, and you can't force people to understand and acknowledge their class identities in a way that propels them and into action. And a lot of that is because women of color experience a whole other system of oppression, on top of just the oppression of being a woman. Which, part of the beauty of oppression, and it's a quote that my boss says all the time, and I am being an idiot and completely forgetting who says it. Oppression oppresses. It oppresses our ability to think. It oppresses our ability to see what we want and from this world and from ourselves. So there's a lot of the infighting that has resulted from that, because we still haven't won. Women still haven't won. Not really. Not with equal pay, not with reproductive justice, not with anything. Not with childcare, not with healthcare, not with education. And it just is an ongoing battle that never ceases. And now with the concept of identity politics coming so strongly into the forefront of feminism and feminist consciousness, but also just in a more broad context, because the system that we live in doesn't just oppress women, it oppresses everybody. And so everyone is very, very wrapped up in this expression of identity, and I am not what you tell me I am. I am my own special unicorn, which is absolutely true. But I think that, especially in seeing the work that my boss has done, there are steps that come before, just proclaiming yourself on the mountaintop. First, you have to climb up the fucking mountain. And it's big.
So then what's your ideal world look like then as a feminist? Are women in charge?
No, my ideal world, and I find myself saying this a lot, actually, my ideal world is one in which we don't use language in the same way anymore. We instead communicate using sound and telepathy, so essentially creating films for each other. And we're all naked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate to break to you, but this is going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, that's a long ways away.
You can't, 60 cents on the dollar. That hasn't. You're not moving forward on that.
I know.
Creating films for each other.
Well, okay. You said my ideal world, and
yeah,
my idealism goes very far, very fast. But something that is tangible and is here and now, it is accessible, is reclaiming understanding of our physical bodies. And one of the ways that we can do that is through doing self-exam, which is what my boss teaches, teaching cervical self-exam to women so that they can be their own gynecologists and perform their own abortions.
People need to go to the doctor, though.
If for conditions, yeah, for extreme conditions, for disease, yes, people need to go to the doctor.
Being pregnant's an extreme condition.
It's not, though. It's not. It's really not. And because if it were, if pregnancy were as perfect as we all make it out to be, then there would be no such thing as miscarriage. There would be no such thing as infertility. There would be no such thing as fatal birth defects. Pregnancy is a reality, and it is a powerful one, to be sure, but it's also one that is, it's not breathing, but it's very close to breathing. It's a very natural function of our bodies.
So how do you perform an abortion on yourself?
Well, the way that you do it, ideally, is through practicing menstrual extraction with a device that was created by the women who my boss worked with. They observed a hot, young, secret abortion darling in Hollywood, and they studied what he was doing and studied his method. And Lana Clark Phelan, one of the women who was involved with this, created a device that was slightly different from what this doctor was using. And it's very easy to create the device. And it takes practice. It does take practice, which is why it's called menstrual extraction, because it's actually so safe that you can do it as not an abortion. You can do it just to extract your uteral lining, so that instead of having your period, you've sucked it all out, and you'll maybe have it for a day instead of 5 to 7 days or whatever. I am not as versed on this as my wonderful bosses.
But this is the battle plan?
Well, it's one method, because there is a huge push for medication abortion with all of the new restrictions that are coming up again for some reason, and the restrictions that exist all over the world already, handing women a handful of pills and saying, take this instead, is very appealing, and it seems very quick and very convenient. But in doing that, it's perpetuating a system of isolation, because you can just pop a couple pills and lay up for a few days and not tell anybody about it. Whereas with something like menstrual extraction, you do need other women. You need other women to help double check the size of your uterus. You need other women to help, insert the cannula into your cervix so that they can withdraw all the fluid. And that process of women helping women understanding not just their own bodies, but also other women's bodies in this very tangible way.
Cooperative nature of it.
Yeah.
Is the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you seem very well versed in feminism. You seem like you are a good feminist, whatever that means. However, because, at the end of the day, you are just, person living in this society.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find there are certain stereotypes or sexist things that you kind of agree with?
I agree that women are beautiful. Absolutely. And I believe that there is a beauty to femininity that maybe is kind of essentialist a little bit. I do believe that women have, and it's sort of sexism in the opposite way. Like, once you get into things like essentialism, it's like only women have these qualities, only women are intuitive, only women are kind, only women are compassionate. And to an extent, I do believe in those things.
Yeah, like violent crimes are pretty much only committed by men.
Yeah.
Serial killers are pretty much only ever men, except for like weird cases.
Yeah.
But it's like 3 or 4 female serial killers.
Yeah, the statistics are just all around much lower.
Yeah. So knowing, if that's true, do you think there could be some weight to, the beliefs that like men more intuitively can like measure distances and build things and hunt and things like that, because evolutionarily they would have been the ones doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I do see a lot of truth in the biological differences of men and women. But at the same time, I think that a lot of those differences have been specifically turned up to 11 so that we think that they're much more different. I mean, if I can get a man to help me carry a heavy piece of equipment at a show, I will absolutely do that, even though there's a part of me where like my inner pride is kind of twinging a little bit. But there are, real differences between men and women. I think generally we're much more similar, like men can actually lactate and things like that. You just don't have any babies yet. So, I think that ultimately we've both been denied our roles in society. Men have been very much denied the role of caretaker, and women have been denied all other roles.
Yeah. No, I definitely got the short end of the stick. I don't think anybody disagree with that.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people do. A lot of people think it's not true, and a lot of people think that women are built anatomically the way that they're built because that is their role, But that to me is just, it comes back to that understanding of human anatomy. We don't understand it. We're taught that we can't possibly understand it. We're taught that we can't diagnose something that is like a rash on our arm. We have to pay someone to go tell us what kind of rash it is and for them to give us an ointment, and there are very serious diseases that require in-depth study, but all of that medical study is also rooted in patriarchal, capitalistic whoopsie daisies, if you will. And science, and medical science especially, is still being understood, and it's a constant process of changing and understanding. But that is not what sells. It's much easier to just say, this is how it is, and we're going to give you things for it. This is what's wrong with you. And it's comforting for people, I think, to hear that as well, because to be human is very mysterious. To have a body, to be alive, to have feelings. All of the elements of sentience are beguiling.
Well, one more thing, we're running out of time, but one thing that popped up that I'm curious about, your mother is a Reiki master?
Reiki. Yeah.
Reiki.
Yeah.
And that is healing through touch? It's like a Japanese pseudoscience?
Yeah, it's I would call it more of an esoteric healing, alternative healing process. And essentially what it is opening your body's energy to be able to channel your energy in the form of heat, usually through your hands. And in that you can feel where other people have blockages. You can feel where you have blockages.
Do you believe this?
Yes, yeah, I do it.
You do?
Yeah, my mother attuned me to it when I was 16 or 17 years old. And she's a Reiki master. I think she only took me to level 2. But something like Reiki is also something that is an innate right and ability that we all have. The heart, for example, has an electromagnetic field that extends out to about the tip of your finger. And that's something that can very much fit in with the esoteric realms of auras and things like that. And if the heart has that energy center, then why not all the other organs? Why not all the other channels in the body. There's a lot in esoteric Taoism that overlaps with that, a lot that's in Tantra that overlaps with that. I very much believe in the subtle body, the energetic body, yeah.
MRK, you definitely have a lot going on intellectually, creatively. You have all these different interests, but you seem like you have a very sunny disposition, like you've been smiling this whole time. You seem like kind of like a lighthearted person. How do you reconcile maybe your true innate happy-go-lucky disposition with like all the terrible things in the world and this bloody imagery in your videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just love. I love people. I love life. I love this frequency of reality that we've all consciously and subconsciously agreed to participate in. And that is definitely a struggle, always. But I think that it's supposed to be. And not a struggle in the sense that we're meant to suffer, but a struggle in the sense that, like, giving birth to a new human is a struggle. Climbing a mountain is a struggle. Doing anything that's worth anything requires pain, requires exertion, requires joy, requires love, And the biggest thing that really has helped me to cope with a lot of these conflicting natures or whatever it is just the magical process of coming to a place in my mind where I can accept two or more truths as being in conflict and as being equally true and equally false and equally some other option and equally infinite other options, which is a very spacey way to think. But I just don't, reality doesn't make sense at all.
That might have been the truest thing you've said this whole interview. Well, do you have any shows coming up? Social media, anything you want to plug out there?
Yeah. I'm actually playing tomorrow at P.S. Kaufman Gallery downtown for a performance art, wearable art event. I'm working with an amazing jewelry designer who will be dressing me for the occasion. It's going to be amazing. I'm playing at HM 157 on Friday with Voom and Pleasures and Indian Jewelry. And I am also going to be at Lethal Amounts guarding a Santa Muerte altar. I won't be performing, but I will be guarding the altar.
Be on guard.
Yeah, I'll be on guard, probably in a similar cloak type situation.
You look for the young lady in the cloak.
Yeah.
I would say hi. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, this is Adam Papagan reminding you that there's a place you can go, and it's your mind.